Gipsy Rose Blanchard has been in the news for a heartwarming reason after years of being associated with a notorious case of abuse and murder. Aurora, a baby girl, was born to the 33-year-old and her boyfriend, Ken Urker. The news of her pregnancy brought her to international notice due to her tragic and troubled history. As Gipsy goes from survivor to proud mother, embracing a new chapter full of love, hope, and redemption, this shocking turn of events has surprised her admirers. Gipsy Rose Blanchard came into this world in Golden Meadow, Louisiana, to parents Claudine, Dee Dee, and Rod Blanchard on July 27, 1991. Rod broke up with Dee Dee not long before Gipsy was born. He was just 17 years old. Child support payments and continued attempts to stay in touch were only two ways that Rod kept himself engaged in his daughter's life after they divorced. But Dee Dee isolated Gipsy from her father and others as she swiftly took control of her upbringing. Dee Dee started making claims about Gipsy's several major ailments when she was a baby. The story goes that Gipsy had a number of long-term health issues, including epilepsy, sleep apnea, muscular dystrophy, leukemia, and developmental difficulties, on top of being born prematurely. Gipsy was born a healthy baby, so these accusations had no basis. A severe case of Munchausen syndrome by proxy, OMS-BPE, was suggested by Dee Dee's behavior. MSBP is a mental condition in which a caretaker creates or produces a dependence illness in order to obtain sympathy, financial support, and attention. Dee Dee kept a closer eye on Gipsy as she matured. By fabricating Gipsy's symptoms, she persuaded doctors to conduct pointless tests, give drugs, and even operate on her. Even though Gipsy could eat regularly before the operations, she still had to have a feeding tube put in. Despite her physical abilities, she was compelled to utilize a wheelchair. It was astounding how Dee Dee could influence doctors and nonprofits. She took use of Gipsy's purported infirmities to solicit donations and offers of help, such as free Disney World vacations, money from charities like Habitat for Humanity, and regular presents from kind strangers touched by the mother-daughter tragedy. Habitat for Humanity constructed a house in Springfield, Missouri, just for the Blanchard family, and they finally moved in. Every part of Gipsy's day was dictated by Dee Dee, who had an iron grip over her existence. Gipsy was shielded from peers and adults who could have cast doubt on her health claims because she was educated at home. So that Gipsy would be completely reliant on her, Dee Dee made sure that Gipsy couldn't question her authority or ask for assistance from anybody else. Dee Dee manipulated and intimidated Gipsy into quiet, despite her increasing concerns about her health. Dee Dee would beat Gipsy physically or accuse her of guilt tripping whenever Gipsy dared to express her uncertainties or try to stand on her own 2 feet. To top it all off, she forged Gipsy's birth certificate to make her appear younger than she actually was. This enabled Dee Dee to uphold the image of a fragile, dependent daughter who required continual nurturing. The fact that Dee Dee could win over the people only served to further isolate her. The two quickly rose to fame in Springfield, appearing in print and broadcast media on a regular basis. The narrative of a dedicated mother giving her all for her ill kid was further reinforced by Dee Dee's many public appearances, which further shielded her from criticism. When Gipsy was a teenager, she started to see discrepancies in her mother's accounts. For example, she learnt that even though she was wheelchair-bound, she could walk unsupported. Similarly, she found that many of the drugs that Dee Dee had urged she take had unneeded side effects instead of helping with her actual health problems. Despite her restricted mobility, Gipsy was able to find ways to communicate with people online on occasion. Gipsy discovered her actual age and started investigating ways to get away from her mother's supervision thanks to the internet. She secretly joined online chat rooms and social networking sites so she could talk to people her mother couldn't see. Gipsy tried to flee with a man she had met online in 2012 while attending a science fiction event. But Dee Dee wasted no time in locating them and returning Gipsy to her home, where she cautioned her that she would contact the authorities to file a kidnapping case against the man in the event that Gipsy attempted to flee again. This experience solidified Gipsy's conviction that she was ensnared and unable to escape her mother's dominion. Nicholas Godejohn was Gipsy's first online suitor in 2012. Among Nicholas's many mental health diagnoses was autistic spectrum disorder, and he had a rough past. Gipsy and Nicholas were romantically involved despite Nicholas's struggles. They communicated mostly through text message and internet platforms. Gipsy told Nicholas the truth about her mother's abuse, and the two of them started planning a rescue mission. As Nicholas pretended to be Gipsy's savior, their friendship intensified. He vowed to assist her in her escape and urged her to confront her mother. Their once light-hearted banter eventually turned gloomy as they plotted Dee Dee's murder. Visiting Gipsy at her Springfield home was Nicholas's plan for the evening of June 14, 2015. Gipsy opened the door for Nicholas to come inside after Dee Dee had gone to sleep. Nicholas murdered Dee Dee as she slept. As Gipsy waited in the loo, multiple stab wounds were inflicted upon Dee Dee during the gruesome murder. Gipsy and Nicholas then made a break for it, stealing the money that Dee Dee had stashed away before they disappeared, leaving her dead to be found at a later date. They hoped to begin a new life together at Nicholas's Wisconsin house, so that's where they stayed at first. They were apprehended, nevertheless, because Gipsy used social media after the crime. "That bee is dead," was the strange statement that Gipsy left on Dee Dee's Facebook page. Police were notified after this message went viral among friends and neighbors. The discovery of Dee Dee's body led to the arrest of Gipsy and Nicholas. In the course of her interrogation, Gipsy told detectives all about the brutal torture she had suffered at the hands of her controlling and manipulative mother. The audience was taken aback by this discovery, since they had previously believed Gipsy to be a sickly, helpless child and Dee Dee to be a loving mother. Gipsy was given a 10-year prison term with parole eligibility in 2024 after pleading guilty to second-degree murder. Nicholas, who was found to have been the principal offender, received a life sentence without the possibility of release after being found guilty of first-degree murder. The audience was enthralled by the Gipsy Rose Blanchard and her mother's story, which sparked discussions around mental health, the court system, and abuse. Dee Dee's abuse went unrecognized for years due to systemic failures, and the tragic consequences of Munchausen syndrome by proxy were brought to light in Gipsy's case. The significance of being alert to indicators of abuse and challenging medical diagnoses that depend entirely on a caregiver's testimony was further brought to light by Gipsy's case. It demonstrated how critical it is to improve accountability and monitoring within the social service and healthcare sectors. Aurora Rain Urker is the first child of Gipsy Rose Blanchard and her partner, Ken Urker. The first anniversary of Gipsy's release from prison is on December 28, 2024, which happens to be the date of Aurora's birth in Louisiana. On social media, the happy couple announced their news. Ken shared a touching photo of Gipsy holding their newborn in a hospital bed, and the two parents were clearly overjoyed. And he wrote, "Welcoming 2025 with the greatest gift of all," as the caption. For Gipsy and Ken, the name Aurora is quite meaningful. The Aurora Borealis, more commonly known as the Northern Lights, became a shared interest between them during their 2018 courtship. Surprisingly, without consulting each other first, they had both settled on the name Aurora for their future daughter, which was a significant decision. At 33 years old, Gipsy has been fully immersed in parenthood. In an Instagram post, she thanked her loved ones for their support and provided snippets of her postpartum experience. One of her posts said, "Leaning into motherhood in 2025," emphasizing her resolve to provide Aurora with a warm and caring home. After serving 8 years for her role in her mother, Dee Dee Blanchard's death, Gipsy will be released from jail in December 2023, and the birth of her daughter Aurora will signal the beginning of a new chapter in her life. The torture that Gipsy endured as a result of her mother's Munchausen condition via proxy has been brought to light by the extensive media coverage of her story. Gipsy is now committed to providing a bright future for her family as she embraces her new role as a mother. During Gipsy's pregnancy and the delivery of their daughter, Ken Urker, with whom she revived her relationship in early 2024, has been an incredibly supportive spouse. They are now committed to parenting Aurora as a family after a transformative journey of reconnecting and growing as a marriage. Gipsy has been quite open about her new life on social media, but she has decided to keep some details, particularly those involving her kid, private. She wants Aurora to have a normal childhood away from the spotlight. Therefore, she made this decision to safeguard her privacy. Gipsy Rose Blanchard is determined to provide a loving home for her daughter Aurora as she begins the new chapter of her life as a mother, and she has the love and support of her family and friends by her side. A complicated and disturbing tale of abuse, manipulation, and survival, Gipsy Rose Blanchard and her mother Dee Dee's terrible narrative is sure to terrify. Even though Dee Dee's behavior was motivated by her own mental health concerns, it had a significant and lasting effect on Gipsy's life. The ultimate sacrifice Gipsy made to escape raises issues of ethics, fairness, and the repercussions of unregulated abuse. Gipsy is still a cautionary story about the significance of being vigilant in protecting vulnerable folks and a symbol of resilience in modern times.